Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's show. We are fresh off of the election. So, if you're just getting some news now, which I doubt you have not heard it yet, but yeah, so big election yesterday in the US. Today, we're going to be talking about how that is going to affect real estate, right? Which is always my concern as a real estate investor. Is how is this going to affect my US portfolio? And also even my Canadian portfolio as well, right? How is it going to affect those countries? So that's what we'll be diving in today. I'm live on multiple different platforms, so do not be shy. If you have questions, put them in the chat, and I'll go through it and I'll answer them. We always do Q&A when we do these live, so do not be shy. But yeah, Trump ended up winning yesterday, and actually, you know what? Let me backtrack. I should start off by saying this. So Mel and I, we're not political whatsoever, right? It's not, left, right, or which party. It's literally that. It is, how is this going to positively or negatively affect our real estate portfolios? Okay. So that is how I look at things. I'm always looking as a real estate investor. Not really, again, political is not really my thing. So, but yeah, so Trump ended up winning yesterday, and we'll discuss. I've been talking to a couple of economists, a couple of mortgage brokers. I was actually looking into some of the delinquency as well in the US and in Canada, the mortgage delinquency rates. Some people are starting to say that it's, for Canada anyway, that it's almost kind of the '08 numbers. Anyway, so lots of different things we're going to be chatting about. If you are new to us, right, if you're new to Mel and I, we are full-time real estate investors. I live in Canada as of right now. Who knows a couple of years from now where we'll be living, but as of right now, I live in North Bay, Ontario, Canada. But we invest in 5 different countries. So we have a portfolio in Canada, US, Costa Rica, Mexico, and Dominican Republic. But today we're going to focus mostly on the US side of things because of yesterday's big events. Mel and I actually stayed up till 11:30. We didn't hit midnight, but we were watching on multiple different platforms. And again, we don't have any political views. It's just how's it going to affect real estate. So the biggest things from what I'm seeing, okay. And again, I was going to say, if you're new to us, make sure to give us a follow as well, and follow us on different platforms, right? If you're tuning in on like Facebook or Instagram, make sure to check out our YouTube page, right? We've got over 1,000 videos there, so it's all real estate investment content. But some of the biggest things with Trump, I had this whole conversation set up if Kamala won and if Trump won, but obviously Trump ended up winning. So with Trump, some of the biggest things is the interest rate. Okay. So the Fed actually has an announcement, the 6th and the 7th. I think it's tomorrow. Or is it today? I don't know. They're meeting right now and tomorrow, from what I'd seen anyway. So hopefully, like predicted, hopefully they have a huge cut, another 50% cut, 50%. I wish, another 0.50 basis points cut, just like they had in September. Yeah, Mel and I were in Miami. Yeah, that was in September. It was Bank of Canada that cut 2-3 weeks ago. But yeah, the Fed, hopefully they do cut. So that's going to be something that is on Trump's agenda. He was talking a lot about that, was the interest rate cuts, right? He's going to be, and I'm just going from research I've done, he's going to be leaning on the Fed to cut those interest rates. And I know they were kind of going to take it a little mild and they were still going to cut, is what they had said. But I know from just watching a little bit of his campaign stuff and doing some research that he said, hey, Barry, he said he wanted to push a little bit more aggressively. So we might see interest rate cuts happen a little faster than what we might have seen if things kind of stayed the same. Hey, Hamza. Guys, if you have questions, don't be shy as well, okay? So that is something as well, that he wants to see inflation, get cut. He wants to see the interest rates get cut. So we might see that happen a little sooner. Now that we've got, I'm not a U.S. citizen. Now that there is a Trump government, something as well that he's huge on tariffs, right? And again, if you're tuning in, I really have to say this a lot of times. I am not political. I'm. To me, it didn't matter who won. I just wanted to see how it was going to affect my real estate portfolios. Tariffs, we know that he's huge on that. He was very vocal on it. It was funny yesterday. I was trying to explain to my 9-year-old what tariffs were, because he was watching a little bit in the background. He was playing around and stuff, with Lego and his toys, and and he kept hearing tariffs, and he's like, "What's that?" And so I kind of explained to him very quickly what tariffs are. And for example, like I'll just if you're wondering what are tariffs and how does it affect things, and I literally had the economist explain it to me like I was in grade 4. Okay, so I'll explain it to you how they explain it to me. So let's say, for example, what do I use? Okay, let's say there's a $50,000 car. Okay, and they're trying to bring it into the U.S. What he is saying is he wants to charge 100% tariff, which means the person trying to bring in a car to the U.S., let's say for $50,000 to sell it, might get charged $50,000 just to bring it in. Okay, so what ends up happening, and this is the chicken and the egg conversation that economists have all the time. I am not an economist. I talked with a lot of them and a lot of mortgage brokers. Um, they say it just ends up getting passed along to the end user. So it ends up costing more anyways. But then some people say it forces that current economy to build their own stuff and make their own inventory. So anyway, we'll have to wait and see what's going to happen with that in the US. And how that's going to affect the real estate market. So if it does end up affecting, meaning the end result ends up getting passed on to the consumer, then people will have to pay more money for the same thing, and that which means they won't be able to won't be able to buy as much real estate because their total debt to income ratios, their total debt service ratios, or just their available cash won't be as much. Okay, so again, I'm always looking at real estate. How does it affect real estate? So that's something that tariffs might have an effect on real estate that way in the U.S. The other thing as well is tariffs. We talked about interest rate. We discussed as well, and hopefully they cut it even more aggressively. I'm hoping that. And then what was the last one I want to talk about? Taxes. So I guess it was 2017 or 2018. I forget exactly, so don't quote me on this. But Trump had actually cut for the top income earners from 40% to 37%. Okay, he had dialed it back 3%, and I think that expires next year. Yes, in 2025. That expires in 2025, and people were not sure if Kamala won, what was going to happen with that, right? Now, Trump will probably pass something along if he can to continue that, right? He's probably going to want to continue what he had started back in 2017 or 2018, whatever year it was when he passed that. So for a lot of high income earners, and again, real estate, I'm thinking real estate. If you're getting, if you're disposing of real estate or, you're selling or you're a flipper, things like that, and you're not doing the 1031 exchange, if you make a lot of money and that top income bracket was affecting you, well, that's a good thing, right? Hopefully it stays at that 37, doesn't go back up to the 40. So tax, Trump's a real estate guy, right? He's probably going to make a little bit more initiatives for tax structures for real estate as well. So as a real estate investor, those are the biggest things that I'm looking for in my US portfolio. The tariffs, the interest rates, and the tax situation. Now, something else that I've been seeing, because I've been reading a lot of different things. Again, some people are talking about a dip in the market, that it's still a bubble and that there's going to be a dip. Some people are talking about a double dip, meaning that hopefully, I think it's today or tomorrow. I forget now. It might be tomorrow. I feel with the Fed, it's always the second day that they make the announcement, but it's typically on Wednesdays. But who knows if it's all different because of the election. So I think the announcement will be tomorrow from the Fed, and hopefully it's another jumbo cut of 0.5 basis points. But what was I getting at? Yes, people are predicting a dip or a double dip. And what I mean by that is if they cut the interest rates and then all of a sudden they see a spark and then, people start buying again, but then they wonder, is it going to cut again? So it goes a little still and it dips again. Anyway, I won't get into the dips and the double dips, but there's a lot of talk about that. And Ohio, I know there's people talking about Ohio dipping as well. Ohio is already very, very cheap to start off with. I find we're in a very interesting part of the market. Okay. And I'll talk US specifically. Canada is pretty much the same as well. People are still on the fence. Okay. People are still on the fence. And again, this is what I'm noticing. I'm talking to a lot of real estate agents as well. I'm talking to some in Texas and Florida, Ohio, and Toronto as well. And I know we're talking US here. It's just, I obviously, invest in both countries. So I'm always talking to people from both sides of the border, but a lot of people are on the sidelines. Okay. And I've been saying this on a few lives here. Every week I come live on our channels, and I've been saying this a few times now, and I feel like people aren't taking advantage of it. Is we're in a lull right now where it is still a buyer's market, meaning some places are staying on the market longer, right? They're not getting as many viewings, they're not getting as many requests for income and expenses. So I still believe it's a great time to buy because eventually, if there's another interest rate cut tomorrow with the Fed, and then Bank of Canada, and then again December 11th, I think the Fed, Bank of Canada as well is going to be in no, they did it October. They're going to do December as well. It's just going to take that little spark, and the market, in my opinion, is going to go back up again, and it's going to switch from that buyer's market to maybe a little bit more even or seller's market, right? So we're still in that lull. And what I know that in the US, again, I'm talking to a lot of people, they were worried what's going to happen. They didn't know what was going to happen with the election. Now we all know. Okay, Trump won. So that portion of the ambiguity or not knowing exactly what's going on, that's been answered. Okay, so Trump ended up winning. Whether you like it or not, it again doesn't matter to me. Now we're in this situation. He won. How's it going to affect real estate? So now I'm seeing people were hesitant for election day to see what would happen. And now what I think we're going to see happen is people are going to wait until January because he won't be, in office until January. And then people will still want to see what's going to happen. And again, my primary concern is real estate. So investors are still standing on the sidelines going, okay, once he's in office in January, what's going to happen then? What is he going to pass, or what's going to, what changes are going to come? So what I'm getting at here is we're still in that lull right now of it being a buyer's market. And again, we're in that pocket. We're November 6th? Yeah, we're November 6th. We're in that pocket. Real estate is still, Mel and I have done 8 deals this year so far. We're still buying. We're still going to continue to buy. But I'm just saying, if you've been on the fence, don't wait for the masses to realize, oh yeah, real estate is an awesome investment again. Once, December has another, hopefully, interest rate cut from the Fed and from the Bank of Canada. Act now. Why not do it right now while the prices are still relatively good? And I know there's different markets. You might be saying, Dave, I'm tuning in from XYZ market and it's absolutely bonkers. So I'm talking in general here. But in my opinion, again, the market is still relatively not as expensive as it can be if this spark takes off. Okay. So the biggest things today so far are the tariffs. How will that affect the end consumer? I know I've talked about this, but I'll kind of do a recap. How is that going to affect the end consumers of people buying in the US? All right, whether it's single family homes or it's multifamily, what their buying power basically, or their buy box, how it's going to affect that. The interest rates, hopefully, and I'm selfish, obviously, for my own portfolio. I hope that, I've got a couple of deals that I need to finance in the next, this week, I'm closing another deal November 15th, and I'll be getting 2 other mortgages, all in Florida. So I'm selfishly hoping that they cut today or tomorrow whenever the Fed ends up announcing, because I've got 3 mortgages renewing basically in the next little bit. So I'd love a cut. Now, that being said, cuts don't always necessarily mean lower interest rates, because this week in the US, I think it went up by 0.08 or 0.09 or something. There was actually on November 4th a little bump up in a lot of the different and again, just don't quote me on this. Talk to mortgage brokers. I am not a mortgage broker. Okay, I'm not a bank or anything like that. So definitely talk to them about it. But I thought I did see just a little bump up in that interest rate. So it doesn't always necessarily mean that there's a cut, that there will be an interest rate cut. So, however, he has said that he does want to lean into pushing the Fed to cut a little bit more aggressively and a little bit faster. So as an investor, I'm happy about that. And then the other thing, the tariffs, the interest rate, and then also the taxes for the high income earners, which again is going to affect people that are selling their portfolio. They're going to want that tax bracket to be as low as possible. So I see some questions here. Yes, God bless you. Thank you. Awesome. Someone was messaging me questions because I don't think I get all of them when I'm on multiple platforms like this. Someone was saying, Dave, are you still buying in the US? Yes, Mel and I are still buying in the US. So as mentioned, in the next 2 months, we're probably going to transact on 3 different properties in Florida alone. Okay. So yeah, still buying in the US. Absolutely. I still see that, like I mentioned, that pocket of time that, we can't get this time back in the market. There's these certain times that happen where, I wish I could buy more real estate right now. Um, so that as well. Ohio is very cheap as well. So yes, we are still definitely buying in the US. Someone was saying, oh, the team messaged me. And yeah, guys, don't be shy. Any other questions you have? Creative financing. Yes, creative financing does work in US, Canada. Like, well, the 5 countries that we do it in, right? We use creative financing. So Canada, US, Costa Rica, Mexico, Dominican Republic. Seller financing is probably my favorite, right? That we do in all those countries. So yeah, actually, I shouldn't say all those countries. We did not do seller financing in Mexico. It was more like a developer type financing. You can do that type of stuff. But yeah, it's still creative financing in the different countries. No, I do not have a side. I saw someone. I was Mel and I are not political, to be honest with you. So we weren't going for either way. It was just, okay, who's going to win and how does it affect things? And like as a real estate investor, it's always the way I look at it is you can't change things. So whether you really want something or don't want something, you can't necessarily change anything. So it's, okay. If this happens, what's our plan of attack? What do we do? How do we brace ourselves? If this happens, what's our plan of attack? So I had a conversation, lined up some key points that if the results had been different, I'd be talking about different things today. But either way, it was, hey, why do we shift our portfolio and how do we do things? But yeah, we'll continue to buy in the U.S. What's your name? My name's Dave. Avesh. Dave. Melon Dave. Investor Melon Dave. Any other questions, guys, about U.S. or what you're thinking about? Okay. I'm seeing a lot more Canadians lately that are buying in the US. So, in my opinion, I haven't heard or seen anything that this will negatively or positively, like, not really change anything from a foreign national look on things, right? So, if you're in Canada and you're thinking, hey, I want to buy in the US, does this really change anything? I haven't seen any, and again, I might have missed something, but I haven't seen anything that might negatively affect a non excuse me, U.S. citizen from buying there. But again, that could change, right? You never know. Any other questions, guys? There's something else I wanted to mention too. I forget. There's those 3 key points. There's something else I wanted to mention as well about how Trump winning could affect real estate. Yeah, I forget. Someone was asking me, because I was talking this morning as well, how will this affect our Canadian real estate, right? And I've talked to a few people, and it seems like it's going to be a waiting game. So I've talked to people on both sides of the borders. And I'm like, hey, if Trump wins, does this have any impact on the Canadian side of things, real estate wise, right? Because again, it's all about real estate for me and Mel. And it's just, I think it's going to be a wait and see game. So yeah, on the Canadian side of things, for buying in the U.S. or even your Canadian real estate portfolio side, with Trump winning, it's going to be, I think, a wait and see game for that one. But the U.S. side, those are the changes that I'm seeing. Awesome. If you guys have any other questions, make sure to DM us. Make sure to follow us on all sorts of different platforms. Again, Mel and I are on different platforms as well. Yeah, so don't be shy. Something that we could talk about as well for the buying in the US is, as Canadians, I see this all the time. 1031 exchange, because I get this. Mel and I have our Action Family Mentoring Program, right? We have over 2,100 members now. Mel and I have been doing real estate for over 25 combined years. And something, there's definitely some nuances that we see between the two countries, right? And one of the biggest things too that I see is Canadians will hear about the 1031 exchange. They'll ask, hey, can I actually do this on the Canadian side? Is there any equivalent to the 1031? As far as I know, unfortunately, there is no equivalent to the 1031 exchange on the Canadian side. You sell the asset. There's no way of kicking that can down the road, unless you hold seller financing. Then you can delay it up to 5 years or spread it up to 5 years. But it's not like a 1031 exchange where, as long as you take the proceeds and buy another real estate without getting too into the process, as a Canadian, we do have nothing on the Canadian side, okay, to do the same thing. As a Canadian on the US side, we still don't necessarily have that benefit. Okay, so for example, let's say I sell one of my Florida properties, okay, and I decide to elect the 1031 exchange on the US side, and I do the process. I've got other videos on that as well. Um, Everything's good, hunky dory on the US side, but on the Canadian side of things, Canada Revenue Agency goes, "Hey, cool, yeah, you did that in the US, right? But we don't have 1031 exchange. So where's my money?" Right? So you would still have to pay, and again, I'm not an accountant, so don't take this as accounting advice, but you would still have to pay taxes if taxes are due on the Canadian side, even if you did a 1031 on the US side. Okay. So there's a lot of nuances like that for Canadians buying in the US, right? Everyone will go on YouTube or different, Google, and they'll read a bunch of stuff, which is awesome, right? And most of it applies to US citizens and the US side. But there are a lot of differences and a lot of nuances that what if you had sold that property and you thought, oh, I'll just do the same thing on the Canadian side? And then Canada Revenue Agency, CRA, says you owe me money. And you don't have that money because you've used it to buy another piece of real estate on the US side. You might be left scrambling, right? So there's just a lot of different things in the different countries that, again, if you don't know, right? If you don't know what you don't know until it's too late, and those things can hurt you or hinder your real estate growth. And I don't wish that on anyone. But yeah, so I just wanted to come on today, chat briefly about some of the changes that might see now that Trump has been elected. Let me know, comment below. What are your thoughts? Do you like it? You don't like it? Good, bad? I know people have a very strong opinion around this. Again, Mal and I stay pretty neutral. It's, hey, who won? How does this affect real estate? Do we need to do anything? And if so, what is it? And we're always ready to pivot. So, yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. Let me know if you have any questions. And thanks for tuning in.